Funny because it could be long, it could be short. Today was a bit in the middle. So, cuneiform, our topic of the day. This, in my opinion, is the most important invention of the Sumerians. Now, we can argue and say things like the wheel is going to be more important or other things, but I think writing is muy importante. That's a beautiful face, Madeline Kate. I love it. All right. She was making a silly face. All right. Now, the writing of the Sumerians was called cuneiform. Now, cuneiform means wedge-shaped. It is going to be Greek. They didn't call it that, but it was based off of, when we look at these, we see that it's kind of triangular, and they use something called a stylus to do it. Stylus and wet clay. Their soil there was clay, and a stylus is exactly the same thing. Like when you're like, hey, my 3DS or Wii U or DS has a stylus. Yeah, that stylus thing, that little stick that you used to control it that you probably lost and then had to use your finger and it's not as good. That's a stylus. It's the same exact thing, except their styluses were made of wood or reed, which are plants that grow by water.
Don't you mean a joystick? Like a joystick, but it's flat?
No, I do not mean a joystick. I mean a stylus, a little plastic stick thingy. Yes, Alicia?
All right. Gentlemen,
this
you
looks
enjoy
sort
the
of
rest
like
of your day?
ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Yeah, they are similar. Yeah. All right. So, in fact, I can show you a quick example of a stylus right here. So, if we go look, where is it? It's like hidden away. There we go. So, stylus, just like that. There we go. Yep. Anyways, only scribes knew how to write in this language. It was very rare for people to get an education. Only the richest, smartest people like Avery were able to go to school and become what is called a Dubsar, which is a great title for teacher. If you want to call me Dubsar Kenny, I am totally down with that. Because, I mean, come on, how cool would it be to be a Dubsar? Anyways, so the Dubsar at the tablet house would teach people how to write, but only a small amount. The scribes would be able to get to do this writing. And we know a lot about the Sumerians because they left so many cuneiform tablets. I love how Madeline Kate is writing some notes down. And hopefully many of you are writing notes down too, because of course writing helps you with retention. I can't require you to do it because you're at your house and I'm over here and I can't make you do anything. But it definitely does help you to write. You're also more than welcome to type, although writing does have more research showing that it's better than typing. But you can also go back and always check these because it is digital. So it's not like you can't go back and check it out anytime. Oh, I love your shirt, by the way, Supriya. That's so cool. Anyways, so for those of you who just got out, you're writing things now. Alas, I am going to have to move on because we only have a limited amount of time. But you can go back to this at any time and see it. And you can even go to the recording and hear me talk about how great it is to write. Isn't that wild? All right, so here's some examples of cuneiform. We see it's going to start out as pictographs, which it makes a lot of sense. You know, Aiden wants to go and represent that he caught some fish, so he draws a fish. This man kind of looks like something like Mr. Kenny would draw, because we all know that I'm a pretty terrible artist. This, however, looks like a fish. And now we're going to see there are things where pictographs, it made a lot of sense how they decided to do the designs. Around 200 years later, to fit more things in on the tablet horizontally, they changed the orientation so that they could fit more things, and basically everything gets turned on its side a little bit. But we see by 600, it looks like this. So we see the changing of it. And to make these like triangle shapes, literally, excuse me, you would just have to stick your tablet, or not your tablet, your stylus into the clay, and it will make that automatically, and then you just draw your line down like that, and that's how you do it. And they were able to write very quickly and do things like that. So that's their earliest, to their writing. Now, we get these really, really cool things that we see right here called a cylinder seal. Now, you should all know what the shape of a cylinder is. It's something like this, the bottle of guitar polish. You see how it, circuit round bottom, and then it goes, shoots up, and then round again. So this is a cylinder. And merchants and important people would carry around these cylinders in their pockets. And what they would do is they would roll them onto a clay. Then we get cool designs like we see right here. Like here, so when you rolled it out flat, this is what it looks like. And this was how, so like for example, if Austin was trading Carson sheep for wheat, because they're playing Settlers of Catan, obviously, he would go and Austin would go take a cylinder seal out. He would roll it on the clay. And then these little parts here, they would fill in with, how much sheep for how much wheat and all that kind of stuff and say who did what. And that was how they would do their business. And what is awesome is we go and we see Mesopotamian cylinder seals in India from the same time period. And we see Indian cylinder seals in Mesopotamia. So we know that they were trading over thousands of miles and like through mountains and deserts and all sorts of crazy cool stuff like that. Here's an example of a tablet. We see the top here has cuneiform, and then on the bottoms, he rolled a small cylinder seal. Here we see how the people would go learn. We see their amazing haircuts. I mean, doesn't that just look so fashionable, right? Mariah says no. And she's like, I'm not interested in right now this lesson, Mr. Kenny. Get interesting. Well, fine. I'll get interesting for you right now because well, here's the alphabet. You might find this interesting. Normally, this is the time people frantically try to copy it down, but this is digital, so you can go back and check it out anytime. We get to Gilgamesh. Oh, yeah. Think about that cuneiform stuff as like the appetizer, and this is the main course, the deliciousness of the lesson. We see the statue of Gilgamesh. What can we see and learn about Gilgamesh looking at the statue? Aaron, sir, start us off.
It looks like he's like a prince.
Yeah, so he's definitely a powerful man. I'm going to one-up you. He's not a prince. He's a king, but excellent identifying.
Like he looks really, really mighty.
Yeah, it looks mighty. How did you know he was royalty?
Because I could tell from his clothes.
Yeah, he's got nice clothes. Is that what you're going to say, Caleb? You can tell he's rich because of his clothes, or what else? What he's wearing, yeah. All right, so now, what else can we learn about Gilgamesh, my buddy Gilgamesh here? Yes, Alicia.
It looks like he has a cat or a lion that he's holding. Does that mean that, like, he had a lion as a pet, or like he's stronger than a lion?
Well, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, so now, Supriya, does that look like a baby lion or a full-size lion? What do you think?
A baby lion?
Now, why do you think it looks like a baby lion?
Because it's small.
Well, what if I told you he was just super big? Isn't that wild? I know, it looks like a baby lion, but that's a full lion. And you're like, Senor Kenny, how do you know it's a full lion? Well, look, he's got a mane. Baby lions don't have a mane in here. So we've got a full-size lion, like he's giving him a headlock like it's nothing. So what does that tell us about Gilgamesh Divine?
Someone you don't want to mess with,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with that guy. No way.
I also have a question.
Sure, dude.
Isn't Gilgamesh the guy who was friends with that animal guy?
Oh, we're going to talk about Enkidu. We will. Excellent, sir. All right. What else can we learn or see about Gilgamesh? Ashlyn, darling.
I was gonna say he looks like he was powerful because he got a statue.
Yeah. Awesome. Very good. Very good. Madeline Kate, what would you like to say, sweetie?
He looks really gigantic.
Oh yeah. I mean, because he's got that line in there. I love how his beard has braids and beads in it. Looks real fancy. The beards are always like cool looking. What do we think this is in his hand right over here? Avery, sir?
I was going to say that his braids look like they have braids.
Yeah. Or
he has a very long beard.
Yeah. Yes, Samuel, sir.
A whip?
Yeah, it's called a flail, but it's like a whip. Yeah, and it's a sign of power. So this is the king of Uruk. And Gilgamesh is going to be one of the most famous stories ever written. And so an epic is a long poem. And when I say long poem, I'm not talking about like the roses are red, violets are blue, colors are pretty, but so are you. Something like that. It's got a form. It does not have to rhyme, but it always has a hero. And this hero is always imperfect. There's a flaw. So Gilgamesh is the hero of the story. He's 3/4 God, which how that works, I'm not quite entirely sure. But the story goes he's 3/4 God, and that he was tall and strong, but mean and cruel. He was king of the city of Uruk. He gave them the walls. He gave them many things. So he thought he could take whatever he wanted from his people. One of his most favorite things to do is say it is Kalen's wedding day. And Kalen is so excited. She's going to marry the most handsome, nicest, sweetest, smartest guy she's ever met. And Kalen, she just had her wedding. She's ready to go on her honeymoon and all of that. And then Gilgamesh would ride up in his chariot. Let's pretend it's just a Ferrari for our story's sake. You know, convertible Ferrari. Rides up, takes off his sunglasses and says, "Hey, Kalen, like the wedding dress. Let's go on a date." And she's like, I just got married here. He goes, "I don't care. I'm king. Let's go on a date." And like, then Kalen like has to go get in his Ferrari and drive away. And like her new husband is just like there with his mouth open, like, what just happened? And yeah, that's the kind of guy Gilgamesh. That was his favorite thing to do, to go on dates with like girls, like on their wedding day, like right after they get married or like right before. How cruel is that? He's like, "I'll bring her home later, dude." And drives away and like leaves the dust like on there. And that was Gilgamesh. He was mean. He was cruel. He took what he wanted from his people. Well, just like Divine said, I know we're pretending it's a car. It was really just a chariot or something. But he hears of the wild man, Enkidu, a man who is covered in hair. He has horns, and apparently he was oh so strong. So Gilgamesh says, "Well, I'm pretty strong. I mean, I've got a lion, like I can just put in a headlock here, so I'm pretty buff." So he goes and battles Enkidu. And I'm talking about they have a knockdown, drag out fight. This is like crazier than WWE, slamming each other, beating each other up, all this kind of crazy stuff. And they fight for over a day. They fight for over a day. Like, I'm serious, more than 24 hours that they keep on going and fighting. All right, I'm shutting down the chat because Gus can't control himself, and I might have to talk to Gus's mommy. Now, so they fight for days, or for a day. And eventually, Gilgamesh is like, "Well, Enkidu, you're super strong, man." And Enkidu is like, "You're super strong, dude." And then Gilgamesh says, "We should be best buds." And then they high five, and then they're like best friends, and they go on all sorts of crazy, amazing adventures together. Isn't that great? Yes, Divine Sir. You're muted, sir.
Didn't Enkidu try to go back to the wild, but all the animals betrayed him?
Yeah, so, and that's kind of the cool part of the story. Well, one of the cool parts. So Enkidu represents the old way of life. Enkidu represents the Paleolithic times, the old times, where you're a wild hunter-gatherer living with the animals, putting antlers on your head to try to fool them so you can eat them for dinner. Gilgamesh represents civilization, you know, living in a society. And so, yeah, Gilgamesh takes Enkidu in and is like, "Hey, dude, you should eat this bread that we made," which bread, of course, couldn't have been possible in Paleolithic times because you had to go and grow the wheat or barley and like turn it into flour and then bake it, all this stuff. And then he's like, "You should drink this wine we made from grapes," which is something, once again, not possible during the Paleolithic time. And like Enkidu's like horns fall off. Like I said, he was covered in hair. His hair starts going. He starts looking like a normal person. And he does, yeah, try to go back to nature. And nature is like, "You're not one of us anymore." So awesome. I'm so glad that you know this story, Divine. Anyways, Enkidu and Gilgamesh, they go on lots and lots of adventures. It's awesome. They cut down trees in Lebanon. They fight monsters. They wind up going and having lots of great adventures. And of course, what happens? A goddess falls in love with Gilgamesh. And she goes down and says, Gilgamesh, you're so handsome. You are so buff. We should totally get married. And Gilgamesh says, last time you married a mortal, they died when you were tired of them. And I don't think that's really going to work for me. So no, thank you. Now, is it a good idea ever to say no to a goddess in these stories? No, it is not a good idea, Aiden. So she gets so mad, like starts probably calling him some very nasty names that I will not repeat in this chat, and then goes and sends down the bull from heaven. That's right, this heavenly bull. It starts wrecking, destroying everything. Gilgamesh and Enkidu are like, we totally got to stop this bull. So they go battle the bull. They wind up defeating the bull, which of course makes the goddess really mad that the bull that was supposed to destroy everything winds up getting defeated by Gilgamesh and Enkidu. So she goes and says, well, I'm going to hurt Gilgamesh in a way that he can't even imagine. Sends down a sickness and kills Enkidu. Now, Enkidu dies. Gilgamesh is super duper sad. So he starts going on a quest to find the meaning of life, where he searches for the man Zarathustra. Now, the name Zarathustra might not mean anything to you, but there's a little story about Zarathustra in the Mesopotamian myths. Zarathustra one day was told by the gods to build a really big boat. And then Zarathustra was like, okay, I'll make a boat. And then all of a sudden it started raining and raining and raining and raining. And Zarathustra got all these animals, like 2 by 2 of all of them, and put them on the boat. And then the earth flooded. Yes, that's right. The Sumerians had a story where a guy put a bunch of animals on a boat and it flooded. Does that sound like anything like that you might have heard of? Yeah, it's the whole story of what, Mariah?
Noah's Ark.
Exactly. Yeah. And what's really cool is like every ancient civilization winds up having like a flood story, basically. So it makes you wonder, like, why do all these civilizations have flood stories? Maybe there was a really big flood or something. Maybe there was a dude with a boat. We don't know. But Zarathustra is said to have the secret of immortality. Like Gilgamesh finds this magical plant that lets him breathe underwater, just like in that Harry Potter. I think that's Harry Potter 4, where they have to find the plant and breathe underwater. Goblet of Fire.
3.
Yeah. Oh, it's 3?
No, it's 4.
Okay, I was right. Yeah, I thought it was
Goblet of Fire.
It's been a couple years since I've read the books, and I don't think I've seen Goblet of Fire. I've seen the other ones. But so he goes, finds Zarathustra. Zarathustra's like, dude, you don't want to live forever. That's only for the gods. Live now and be a good king. And he came back and he became a very good king. That's the story of Gilgamesh. Hooray. Yes, Divine. I know I missed a lot. There's a ton of parts of Gilgamesh.
Oh, yeah. I was about to say, what about Humbaba?
Oh, yeah. Umbaba. Yeah. That's when they're going and cutting down the forest of Lebanon and they battle a monster. There are so many awesome stories within it. I'm going to stop recording now. So if